Welcome to Women in the Nude, where we expose everything except for our bodies. We'll leave that to your imagination. I am so excited. My guest today is someone that is really close to me, but also is just such a beautiful, wonderful person. And she puts so much passion into the people she loves, her career. Incredible to welcome my good friend, Elizabeth Messina. I'm
Oh,
so glad
I
you're here.
feel so honored to be here, and it's wonderful to see you. Thank you.
Likewise, I will say, and this is like totally one of those like clickbait things, which
Oh my God,
is
tell me. Okay.
yeah, there is no one else besides my partner that I feel as good naked with. Now, I don't think that was
That
proper
is a
English. How
very
do I
high
say that?
compliment. That's a very high.
It's
Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I don't feel with anyone else other than Hudson and you do I feel good naked. Um,
I got chills. That's so sweet.
uh,
I mean, I know how you
uh,
do. It does sound a certain way, but that's
right.
beautiful.
So yes, so Elizabeth is a photographer. Let's just throw that out there for people
Oh,
that
I
don't
bet you
know.
should have led with that, baby.
Let's explain. Yeah, I should have led with that. Let's explain why. She's an incredible photographer, and she captures women in a light that I've never experienced before. I've been able to work with so many wonderful, extremely talented photographers, and it's not at any way an insult to them, but I I really truly believe that you capture women in a way that nobody else can.
That's so kind. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so, I mean, a thousand questions for you, but I guess, and also, sorry, see, this is things I got verbal diarrhea when I
No, we're
record
the same. I want to talk about 100 things right now.
everything.
Touch on, yeah.
I will say that it is hard to interview somebody that you know because it's like, what do I ask? What's different? But I
Mhm.
want to give people the opportunity to hear from you what you do, why you do it, why you love it so much.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe let's start with why did you become a photographer?
Well, I'm gonna try to be short too because I feel like I could just ramble and
Oh
we could
no,
make
don't
a like
worry.
4-hour podcast. But in a abbreviated version, I my first camera was given to me when I was 12. And that was like more than 40 years ago. So, and instantly I was doing what we do. I was like putting makeup on my friends, sit over there, look at me. Like I had this inner, I don't know, like I knew what I wanted. The photos were not good, but there was a
I don't believe
feeling
that.
I had, a vision or like something. I don't there was no word for it. So to try to describe it now is funny because I had no idea that it was leading me towards where I am now. Now my family, and I think you know this, is very academic, lawyers and very, they value academia in a way that art was never really an option. So I was good student and did the right things. And I was going to be a lawyer. I went to undergraduate school and I was at a college for 3 years and was not happy, just a little lost. Like I was like, I don't get this. I don't feel, I don't know, the way I thought other people seemed to be feeling and happy and
Yeah.
thriving. And long story short, I took an elective class my third year, and it was a photography class. And at this time, it was a while ago, it was only film. So I learned how to develop my own film, print my own work. And my first rolls of film in that class were a woman friend of mine. And so I feel like there's just an inner instinct that I've always wanted to photograph women. And it's sort of been a love letter through my life in women in all different spaces, even, my own daughters now, of course, my mother. I even photographed my grandmother in like a boudoir shoot, although it didn't have that name at the time.
Um,
So I feel like it feels like maybe a bigger purpose than just photography because I feel like there's this thing, and I don't want to overstate this or overgeneralize because a lot of women are different and may not agree with this, but I do, in my experience as a woman and all the women I've captured, see that a lot of people, even stunning actresses, have times when they don't fully feel their beauty and their uniqueness and their grace. And I can see it. And so I feel like if I can reflect back to someone that comes in front of me, what I see and the beauty and the humanity of that woman in that moment, it feels like a more fulfilling and meaningful purpose than just pretty photos. Although I do want them to be beautiful, I want them to have some impact.
What I will say to that is that, I've been very open with my health issues and my journey um, through life, and how people
Mm-hmm.
have really grown up with me because I've grown up on camera. And because of that, you have seen me and the world has seen me at very different stages of my health journey, which is also reflecting my body journey,
Mm-hmm.
from being a little girl growing up, just body changes in general, to
Mm-hmm.
a lot of weight fluctuations and hormone changes that were very visible. And again, besides my husband, you are the only person that I have felt confident in it with.
Mm-hmm.
um, I have never, and that's, I think, also part of why I've said, I don't feel comfortable with any other photographer seeing me naked like I do with
Mm-hmm.
you. Um, and I think that's why you've created such an environment, not just as my friend, but as somebody capturing me, that um, without question, I know, I feel what you're feeling, almost like I believe it, even in times of
Mm-hmm.
being self-conscious about my body and what I look like. And um, you really, I mean, and just as an example, like, even just postpartum,
Mm-hmm.
going through COVID and having my baby, and then you shooting me for the first time since
Mm-hmm.
that, since my I
Mm-hmm.
think he was
He
barely
was
6 months
little.
old.
He was so
He was
sweet.
little.
It was beautiful.
um and I was feeling like not myself. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I was, obviously we all go through this change when we have a baby. It's one of our most vulnerable moments,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt beautiful thanks to you.
Mm.
Yeah, like it makes me emotional.
I know. I feel a little bit too right now. I keep having these
Yeah.
like waves of emotion. I mean, oh, babe, I feel like
Sorry.
no, it's so profound, really, because it's like I've been really, I think, just at this time of my life too, right? Like we have to. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. There's so many layers of things that you said, but I think that as women and in the world that we're in, it's like we go through these like journeys of like acceptance and self-discovery that like, oh, I love you.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
That
and I'm like, oh,
no,
I'm gonna have to
I
cut
mean,
to
like,
you
this
through
is
all of
like
this.
what I mean, I wish I could photograph you right now.
Oh my gosh,
The
no,
real
yeah.
emotion is like what I don't know, I just feel like it's what it is. But I feel like there's this struggle between I don't know what it is exactly, but I'll just speak for myself. I remember being younger and being having days where I felt great. I had long reddish hair then, it was years ago, reddish brown hair, and I was athletic and whatever, and I felt good. And I saw a picture of myself and I just felt horrible. I was like, that's not how it
Mhm.
felt. I wanted to explore that when I was really fell in love with photography. And I find it just profound now being a woman, having gone through different phases of life from being young and vibrant and radiant and hopeful and not really knowing my worth as, one does when you're young,
Yeah.
to, falling in love and being honored by a man in a way that makes you kind of embrace your body differently or be aware of your body differently, to making children, to trauma and physical challenges, all
Yeah.
these things that we go through. And now age, like, I've got gray hair and my face is like things are changing, and to like figure out ways to just be in it, acknowledge it, and feel beautiful even in the nuances of imperfection that are just part of life, part of our humanity. And I think I think it's so confusing sometimes how, I don't know, like when you're with a group of friends and everyone's sort of varied and different in their way, and that sometimes we will admire someone that is our friend or someone walking down the street who's just stunning, but they're different than us in some way,
Yeah.
as we are all different. And I think sometimes, and again, I want to speak for myself, not everyone, but I think we will diminish ourselves in admiring someone else. And I think that that's just such a lost moment of all of these voices and perspectives and beautiful humans are amazing. One person's age, space, beauty, size is
Yeah.
irrelevant to our own. And I do think, again, that you touched on the fluctuation of bodies. I don't fully understand how hard it was for you when you were going through some health and body changes that you weren't comfortable with. And I don't even like using the word like heavy or any kind of like, I just think the words we
Yeah.
use are important. And I've gone through that in my life. I've been pregnant and I have 3 children and had wild weight and mood shifts, and aging, and just things we're just constantly changing, right? We're constantly in motion. And I don't know why we as women sometimes have a hard time
Yeah.
feeling the breadth of our beauty and uniqueness, but we do. And
I,
I think that we're going to say something. I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's okay. No, I was going to say I love that. Yeah, your example of a friend or somebody walking down the street, and I love that because it is sad that we diminish ourselves. I think it's a very human thing. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
almost something that we have to stop and learn that
Mm-hmm.
there's space for everyone, that there's space
Mm-hmm.
for both,
I agree.
um, and even just social media. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just scrolling through people and things, um, and it's I mean, I'm going to speak for myself too, in a
Mm-hmm.
way, in the movie industry, because we're constantly being chosen or not chosen based on looks.
Mm-hmm.
Looks, it would be silly to think that it's not a huge part of
Mm-hmm.
it. It's a massive part of it,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so unless you learn that skill, which is extremely hard, and most of us never learn it. I've had to remind myself constantly, is that just because they pick somebody else
Right.
that they thought looked a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that your looks aren't great
Mm-hmm.
in their own, in
Mm-hmm.
their own way. It's like, they thought that that person was perfect for that for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you're not valuable. It's just not what they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're young, that can, that can really hurt. My parents did a good job of trying to curb that, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it very much is like, oh, well, was she more beautiful than I was?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's a role that is, someone's supposed to be stunning. And then you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I get down to the
Like, I'm
last 3
not that.
girls
Right.
and I wasn't that to them. And I think we do that through so many different stages. It's not just, like in my career, or I can't even imagine too being a model, how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, in our perspective, like our partners, like
Mm-hmm.
if a person that you like, that you want to be with, and they choose
Mm-hmm.
somebody else,
Oh
or,
yeah. I mean, I can't relate to a lot of what you said because I'm just like a deeply devout introvert that doesn't want to be, and you are sort of we're the yin and yang of each other. So I have so much respect for just what you've been through and the graciousness that you've had to navigate it with. But I do quite know the not being chosen by a partner, or I don't
Mhm.
know, just feeling
Yeah, in
not
life in
right,
general. Yeah, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the outward side.
It's an inner
It's
thing. I
inward
think
too.
more. I think it's inner more than anything. And I
Yeah.
will say this, like what you were just saying, just kind of touched something in me. Like I've been really lucky to photograph a lot of women, like all different women, some well known, some regular, some comfortable, some like all versions of beauty and emotion. And one of the most common things that I've had, even with models cast on set, not to the same degree, but is that I've had people come in and say, "Oh, I'm not like the people you normally photograph." Like they try to like,
Mm,
"I'm not," and I'm like, "Yeah, none of us are. Like we're all,
right.
everyone's fragile and human, and I got you." You know what I mean? So, but it's interesting to me. Some of the women that I'm most like, "Oh my god," like amazing, beautiful, still have that experience of like, "Oh, I'm not comfortable," or "I'm not what you're used to," in terms of comparing themselves to photographs they may have seen of mine. And
Right.
I think I'm always like, wow, like you don't even know, like I'm so excited to photograph you.
Well,
And
I would say, oh, sorry.
no, it's just it's an interesting journey to be both a woman and an artist and a professional photographer, have a career around it. And then I feel like I'm sort of in the background, in the middle of this incredibly beautiful social experiment that I didn't know I was part of. And I feel, I don't know, I can't remember if I said this or I thought this, but I feel like it's a purpose for me now. It feels like a purpose to really mindfully honor women, and like even the things that you know mentioned about our experience, that with you're very generous with your compliments, but it was so real. I'm not trying to be nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I am
Oh
nice
yeah.
sometimes, but I'm also, you know, whatever, I'm human. But I literally feel it and see it and find it. I almost feel like my superpower is not photographs, but like being able to see and connect with that part of a woman that allows herself to like exhale in front of me. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and to kind of sidestep here, when I got engaged and I was looking for a wedding photographer, I mean, way before I got engaged, let's be honest. I was looking through photos on Pinterest of things that I wanted and loved, and just the overall I guess appearance of how I wanted my wedding to be captured. And so many of the photos that I had saved on Pinterest were yours.
What? I don't think you ever told me that.
Oh,
Oh
really? Oh my
my
gosh.
god.
Like, and I didn't realize, I mean, I was trying to do my research and I was, you know, trying to actually find photographers
Mhm.
while I was saving all these people
Mhm.
or all of these photos. And your name kept coming up. And I was like, why does that name sound so familiar?
Yeah, was this we already knew each other at this point, and you were
Well, yeah,
like,
but
"Oh my."
I mean,
Well,
I
no, but
hadn't
we didn't
spoken
meet
to
in that
you.
world, right? We hadn't met in that
Right.
world either, which is such a I mean, we should maybe mention how we met because it wasn't
Yeah.
a,
And
you
so
know,
so
real
that was what
usual.
was so cool is like when I went to email you, um I had
I didn't
corresponded
know
with
you
you
saw it.
before. I was like, wait a second.
I
How
know
did this
this
happen?
girl.
Yeah. And then I connected the dots that, oh my goodness, of course, through that email, I was like, oh my gosh, she was taking photos on set.
Mhm.
And so, for the listener, I did a movie years ago when I was 18, called Burning Bodhi, and hopefully I'll be able to actually say this and so that the writing strike is over. I think I'm in my parameters here, or the acting strike, because I can't talk about a lot. But
Mhm.
when I met you, I was doing this movie, and it was so fun because I was pregnant. I had the fake pregnant
Well,
belly.
not real pregnant, pretend
Not
pregnant.
really, yes,
Yeah.
pretend pregnant. Um, yeah, I was pretend
Mhm.
pregnant. I had a fake pregnant belly, and I thought that was so cool and so fun. And I had just started dating Hudson, and he came along and visited the set, and I thought it was hysterical because you were taking photos of me for the movie,
Mhm.
but he jumped into a couple, and it looked like a
Mhm.
maternity shoot.
Which is funny because that's the only shoot we didn't get because of COVID. So you would really
Right.
have them fill in, you know.
Yeah, we had
Mhm.
these funny old photos, and they were so cute, and I loved everything that you got, and I just remember being like, wow, that lady she's so beautiful, she's so cool,
Mhm.
and I had
Mhm.
such a good time with you, and the photos that you captured from set were just so cool, and the fact that you
Mhm.
shared those with me and sent those to me, that was just so nice. And so looking back, how funny, that we had this
Well, but
connection.
the
But
the other thing that I don't know if you, I mean, you probably know now, but at the time, it was unusual for me to be there. I'm not a set photographer. That's not part
right,
of my
yes,
usual job. And the reason I was there, so the shoot was in New Mexico, which is where my dad lives and I grew up part of my life. And I don't exactly remember what the connection was exactly, but my dad knew someone who was producing part, somehow he was knew
yeah,
somebody and said, you know, honey, will you go do some photos for my friend who's got this movie production at his house, this little film. I was like, sure. My daughters came with me because they were visiting grandpa. And so the funny thing that you don't, maybe you know now, but so my girls, it started with Michaela, who's my oldest daughter. So wait, how long ago was this? You were 18,
it was almost 10 years ago. It was 9 years
okay,
ago.
so Michaela would have been like 14 or 15, my oldest, and Jasmine, who's my youngest, was like 6. Okay.
Yeah.
So Michaela was a devout Pretty Little Liars, like
I did not
like,
know that.
oh yeah, she was trying to be so cool. She was like, oh, my God, you're right. But the
Yeah.
sweet thing is, one thing I've done with my girls over time. So Michaela had like watched all of what had been out at that point. And then she would tell me about shows she watched and she said, "Oh, mom, this is one we should watch together." So she got me watching with her because it was like a mother-daughter, like she wanted to share with
Yeah.
me. And Jasmine would cuddle and would watch. So when we got there, they were like, "Oh my God, mom,
I did not know
that's
that.
so
That's so
funny from
funny.
the show, from the and me, I'm like, hi, oh, you're so sweet. But I don't,
Yeah.
I'm a little dorky about stuff. But so anyhow, they were just and what I will remember about that was, whether you knew how excited they were or whatever, you were very gracious and sweet to them. And
Oh,
that
that's
really touched me as a mother and a person, because in that situation, you guys are busy and whatever, but it meant a lot to my girls. And then it was really sweet because Hudson was there. I had been photographing you with your uh, on scene
right. My
baby
scene
daddy or
partner.
whatever. Like,
Yeah, baby daddy.
and, and then I took some photos of you and Hudson, just thinking, oh, you're just a sweet girl and what a sweet couple. And like, we're all.
Yeah,
And
we're
so
all
now it's just so funny because it was this little moment in time. And now you're a dear friend. And I've got these photos from this moment that is just sort of I don't know, just amazing how life works like that sometimes.
it really is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's how we reconnected for the wedding. And I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do a boudoir shoot. Um,
Well, and actually, I'm not sure if you realize this, but so our first official proper photo shoot, was boudoir, which is one of
yeah.
my very favorite things to do. And it was, most of our shots were, this is like my natural light studio. I'm sitting where many of the photos, which I think we're going to share some that we haven't shared
Yeah.
before.
It's
They're
stunning. Your studio is
stunning.
stunning.
And I look at them now and I even feel emotional because I'm like, oh my God, like that was, yeah, that was special.
It
And
really
then it's the
was.
same place that we did when you came back after you had Hendrix. It was the
Yeah.
same spot. It just, the
Well,
full circle stuff is amazing to me.
I felt so obviously, like we've talked about, feeling comfortable with you and Michaela and Jasmine. I mean,
Mm,
your family is amazing. But
thank you.
that studio is so special, and there's a bunch of milestones that have happened there.
Mm,
Um, Not just the boudoir shoot, of course, and also again, that was really the first time I'd ever done a photo shoot like that before.
I
And
didn't know
I
that.
Yeah, and I was just so comfortable, like
Oh my God.
I didn't even think twice about anything. You just made me feel so comfortable, and
Well,
I
I'll
think
tell
I was
you this.
also
I mean, we've done a lot of photos together. Those are arguably some of my favorite images we've ever took. Like, I love the stuff with you and your husband and your son, but there was something about the, like, in fact, Hudson's in some of those too, but they're
yeah.
just like, when I look at them now, I feel both nostalgia and, like, appreciation for you, but also I'm like, wow, those were like, we did something special. It
Yeah.
was a beautiful moment.
It really was, yeah, it really was some of my favorites. It's also still some of my favorite photos that I have of myself.
Like, I feel like I should be
Um,
showing them right now.
but truly, that was the first time I'd ever done a shoot like that, and it just made me so excited for
Mm.
the wedding and
Mhm.
being able to like just continue that and know
It was
that.
magic, yeah.
And also, again, talking about women, you captured my mom and my dad's mom, my
Mm,
grandma, and I
mhm,
together, and because we never see each other because they're in South Africa,
mm,
that was so special. Those were really the
mm,
only types of like photos like that I have of
mm.
them, my whole family, and particularly her, my grandma. And it was just such this really cool generation, photo. And that was just such a special
Mm,
time. I mean, a lot of my family unfortunately has passed since then, and you
I'm
captured them in
sorry.
such a
I knew about
beautiful
your
way.
grandma, but oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my uncle, and yeah, it's been
Mm.
difficult, but I cherish those photos so much, and you just caught everybody in such a beautiful
Well, I think
light.
I mean, your family was very gracious. There's always a lot of energy at a wedding, and I mean, it was really special to be there. But I think you're touching on something that I'm really tripping on, maybe because my kids are getting older too. So I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't know, in the moment of like, oh, all these things are changing. But I feel like photographs, especially like the ones you're describing, are like they're embedded with nostalgia. And
Yeah.
even though in the moment it's a group shot, it's a like they or whatever, they're fine, but it doesn't. But over time, those photos have more and more and more meaning. Whether it's like we're talking about boudoir, but I think especially with loved ones that you lose or tragedies happen, it's like those photos become some essence of a memory of a feeling about them that is profound. I mean, I feel that I've been looking over some of the photos of my children when they were young, and even some for me when I was in art school, just like kind of collecting, organizing. And I feel sad and nostalgia for those, and
Yeah.
these are people that are with me and I'm still with me. But it's like when you have children, you you lose who they are and meet someone new over and over and over again, right?
It's a
Because
great way of
they're
describing
the
it.
baby and then the toddler and it's happens over time, and it's beautiful to watch. I mean, it's bittersweet is what it is, at least for me.
Yeah.
And I look at photos of my children when they're young and I feel like I could cry because I miss them, even though they're in the other room.
Right.
It's wild.
Well, even I mean, I completely agree with. It's a perfect way of describing that. But also, like with my nieces and nephews
Mhm.
and cousins, like or my second cousins, they were also little, and they were such a big part of the wedding that is also so special because same thing.
Mhm.
We've captured. Well, you captured a moment in time that will never get back, but also
Mhm.
a moment where they will never be the same.
Mhm.
And it's just it's so special, and I
Wait,
feel
do
I
you
feel sad.
remember? Wait, do you remember when you were holding somebody's baby? Maybe it was your niece, and a little girl's. I had them hold hands and like they got
Yes,
that. Oh God, I found that the other day. I was like, oh my God, so.
they are so beautiful. It is such a sweet moment. I'm so glad that, yeah,
Mhm.
we decided to not have a traditional bridal
Mhm.
party, and do that instead. Yeah, I have no regrets with that because yeah,
Mhm.
that was just so
It
special.
was wonderful. Anyhow, I feel like I
Yeah.
interrupted you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, no, you're good. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Hudson, for instance, doesn't have a lot of pictures from when he was a child, or
Yeah,
his
I do
childhood
remember
in
that. Yeah.
general. Yeah, and that makes me sad, right? Pictures are
Mhm.
so important, and that's a great way of describing it. That they only get more and more important as time goes on, and yeah, they're so special, and I think that is such a beautiful part of the
Mhm.
generations that we have now, and those to come is that we take.
They
I
have
got
so.
70,000 photos on my phone,
Mhm.
and Hudson has about 6 photos of his childhood, and just that
Mhm.
contrast between,
Mhm.
you know, um, our generation and the
Well,
generation
and
that's coming up
like
after us.
one of the early, she might be one of the earliest female photographers. This woman, Julia Margaret Cameron. She's extraordinary. I'll send you a link if you haven't seen her work. But
Yeah,
she
please.
would like kind of make these like recreations of like literature and stuff, so it feels like just
Mm.
incredible. And I think, from the time she first took a photograph, where she was 48 years old, and she
Wow.
till she passed away like 12 years later, the entirety of her career was 12 years, and in that time, she made 900 photographs, which was
Wow.
extraordinary.
For that,
I
yeah,
can make 900 photographs
in a second.
like yeah, like on like 10 minutes if I
And yeah,
wanted,
yeah, in a
it
day.
makes extraordinary to me to like think about the way you know it's changed, and it is, I mean, I think it's miraculous. I love it, but it's also it's just different. It's
Yeah.
really, I'm aware of it. Mhm.
Even with film, I mean,
Mhm.
shooting on film, as far as like making movies and TV and that sort of thing, in the short time that has all
It's been
changed, that
changing
type of
too.
technology.
Mhm.
Yeah, the way that we capture things is so different. um and yeah, it really is. It's amazing what we can do now.
Mhm.
But as much as we all do it with our phones every day, there are just certain people that capture it differently, and you're one
Mhm.
of those people. And that's
Thank
why I
you.
brought up the Pinterest thing, because
Mm.
your photos, whether you even know it or not, are everywhere. And
Yeah, I don't,
people,
I
and
mean, I mean, I do a little bit, but not really. I'm not
yeah,
like,
women idolize without even knowing who you are. They
that's so
want, they
true.
crave, and they do, and they idolize what you've created.
Mhm.
and want that for themselves. And I think that's such a cool, special thing, because before I even knew that that was you, I mean, I didn't realize in that moment that I
I
even
love that
knew
though. I
you.
love the way we came back together, and I
Yeah,
love
me
that.
too.
Well, and
But
also
it truly was like, ugh, I wanted my experiences to be captured the way that you
Mhm.
see the world, and I think that that's really
That's so
special and
kind.
cool.
Well, thank
I
you.
mean it.
I think the truth is what is most interesting and profound to me about making photographs is it's the most pure collaboration, right? Like literally, it doesn't work unless we are somehow connected and united. You have to be open and willing both to like suggestions like this light is better. How about look
Right,
here, hold that, but also emotionally open. And I have to be paying attention and moving and making photos without disturbing the moment. It's like
right.
there's a rhythm to it. It's almost like a dance, and when we're pausing every now and then and making these moments. And I think that's what I love is the collaborative aspect of it. That's just intrinsic. We can't do it without each other. For some of my experiences, it's in that moment, and then we go through our lives. And in other moments like ours, we've come back
Yeah,
around and actually developed a really beautiful, real friendship out of it. But it was started with that connection of like, oh, feeling each other and collaborating. And
yeah.
I think it's amazing.
I
I have a lot
agree,
of
and
gratitude for that.
oh, likewise. And I
Mhm.
think that that's actually like a perfect way to kind of move on, not move on,
Mm.
but the next step, which was my
Mhm.
cookbook, again, saved lots of things, that I
Mhm.
um that I wanted for the book, what I wanted it to look like, what I wanted the
Mhm.
pages to feel like, what I
Right.
wanted to look like in the book. And it was, I mean, you were the pinnacle of that. I mean,
No,
that
you
I just
are.
knew that no one was going to capture what I wanted,
Well, what I
like you
loved
could.
about that experience so much is it really, I mean, it took our collaboration to another level because we slept here sometimes. We stayed up till like 3 in the
Yeah,
morning. And
yeah, we
actually,
did.
Jasmine, well, both my girls are in the cookbook because we needed models and we couldn't, like, wasn't, and Margot, one of my dogs.
Yes.
So we like took from real life to like make this,
Yeah.
it was, yeah,
Yeah,
it
we
was
really did.
wonderful. I love that project.
I I love all of those photos. Yeah, actually, Michaela and I, we had a sleepover in the studio.
Yes.
We did. Um,
But see, that's what I mean, I feel like that's what's so amazing about like when art and life come together.
yeah.
Like we started through some professional whatever, but it really it's so much more than that.
Well, everybody, like, and I, both people telling it to my face and just comments that, everyone, should I say, that has seen that book is absolutely captivated by the photos. I mean,
Wow, but yeah, I mean,
it,
you're being so nice to me through this whole thing, and I appreciate it.
no, I'm
That was your
absolutely,
baby.
I'm serious. It was my baby, but it was, I feel like, also as much your baby as it was mine, in yeah, in
We're
ways that, like,
co-parent. We co-parent.
yeah, in a wonderful way.
Mhm.
And I mean, yes, it's a biased lens, but I look at other cookbooks and I'm like, could have done
No,
better.
no, no, that's all right. I
I
co-sign on that.
truly,
No,
I
100.
truly know that, like, what you're capable of, what we were capable of together, was so special. And um, it was just so much fun. I had so much
But you
fun.
know
I
what?
didn't
I
feel
did too. But you
stressed.
know what, Sasha, that you keep saying that I want to like address is what I love about this is you're like embracing something positive about something that you made that we made. And I think that when I was talking earlier about having a greater purpose, I feel like that's what it is like, let's celebrate our little victories and our moments of joy and beauty and creation because it's also fleeting.
Yeah,
And I've done this a lot, and I know like people in my family and friends where we are so hard on ourselves. And I feel like there's this space of like, look, we can appreciate and celebrate the things that we do and we're proud of, and
yeah,
also kind of circling back around, honor other women and what they're doing. It isn't about being either dismissive or humble or I don't know, inflated. It's just like appreciating all of it. Like this is all such an amazing blessing.
Yeah.
And
No, I agree.
being women and making things and, you know,
Well, I
that's
just
all
feel
we want
like,
to do.
yeah, I feel like, and listen, I think we're all guilty of it. Like I see, other women doing movies and things that I would love to do. And I think it's easy to, yes, be negative on yourself, like, and envious in ways. And I think what's so important to like, especially for young girls coming into their own, is that, like I said earlier, like space. It's so important to remember that there is a space for everyone. Not only do you
100%.
need to own your own space and create your own space, feel
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you are valuable and you deserve that space, but also to look through the lens with other women and knowing that they have their space and you have yours,
Mm-hmm.
and there isn't there isn't a competition unless you make one. And I think that's
One
the
thing
thing.
that really helps me when I think about that sort of stuff is I think about it like when you think about music, right? If there was
Mhm.
only one singer or one genre that existed, like how sad would that be, right?
Absolutely.
All the flavors and differences and artists that are expressing themselves. Like there's so much music I love and from all different genres, right? And I
Yeah.
think when I start feeling, let me say this. I have lost so many more jobs than I have booked.
Same.
I have been right.
Yeah.
I've been heartbroken and told, to my face behind my back, I wasn't good enough. I didn't fit. I mean,
All of it.
so like I can't. I would tell details and names, but I've been rejected. I've made so many mistakes. I like all of it, so much more than the things that have worked out. Like this beautiful thing we have. This is
Yeah.
special, right? And I think that although it's important to acknowledge the things that we lose and we get our feelings hurt or get rejected, sure. I like sometimes if I lose a job that I really wanted, like creatively or some way, I just was like, if I lose it, I'll feel that for a day or two. I
Yeah.
will allow myself to grieve a little bit, like I got rejected, kind of like you were referring to earlier. But then I think the real joy and magic is that the jobs that you do have, to treat them with so much respect and gratitude and do your best. Like nobody
Yeah.
cares. If you look at my photos and you're like, oh, I like those, you don't care when I'm photographing you. Nobody cares what you did. They care about their moment and their. So for me, I treat every opportunity to create work like it's precious and special. And I
Yeah.
think were you saying earlier talking about like some shoots where there's a lot of people? What were you saying
Yeah.
about that?
Before we were
Yeah.
recording, and I would love to touch on
I
that
couldn't. I
again.
thought that I can't remember.
Yeah. It is one of those things where usually there's a lot of people around.
Hmm.
Whether that's, hair and makeup, who I love. They're always, it's great to have
Of
them
course,
around.
no, it's wonderful to have
But
a team. I know. I know.
of
Yeah.
course, but there are so many people. Usually it comes, like photo shoots in general, it comes with a posse, and it's not
Mhm.
necessarily it's, again, it's not an insult. It's not a bad
No,
thing.
everyone has roles, and there's a lot of value in that. 100%. But
Absolutely.
protecting a space, like even
Yeah.
I've been on sets like that. I how I mean, it's funny. So I've never. I think I've gotten in trouble with this a couple of times. So to anyone who was offended, I apologize if you're watching, hearing this. So when I am on bigger sets, or even just a couple people sets where there's, I often, almost always, do not allow people doing iPhone photos. I've never,
Hmm.
until very recently, and we can talk about this later maybe, but I've never allowed anyone to film me shooting or
Yeah.
film a behind the scenes. And I know a lot of people love that stuff. And now for me, even when approached by some wonderful other artists that wanted to do that, or again, amazing hair and makeup on set that want to get a shot, I've always been a little bit like so devoted to the work, the quality of the images, and knowing that if the energy or something is distracting from the purpose of getting the image that I'm trying to find and observe and capture, that is more important to me, or always has been more important to me than I don't know, behind the scenes reel, or
Right.
and so what I would do, or what I would try to do, is say, look, let's say someone's doing your hair and makeup. Okay, take a few iPhone shots, get what you need, and then once we start the photo shoot, it's like a sacred space. And
Oh.
what I think, even if like let's say, usually I'm over there, not over here. If I'm in front of you and you're here, and we're trying to make something or connect in some way, and you're paying attention to me, but two or three people are over here with their phones capturing
Yeah.
you, even if you're super comfortable with that, you're aware. And
Right.
sometimes I think that awareness can pull you just ever so slightly from the moment. And so I just really love to protect that moment. And I've always tried to be very generous giving the photos afterwards, but I'm like, this
Yeah.
isn't,
It's not
I
what
used
it's
to
about.
joke, like, it's like if someone was doing your makeup and I came in and started touching your lips, that might disrupt their workflow.
Just a little.
I mean, I'm just to give a little perspective. I know everyone has phones now. Everyone wants their perspective. I totally get it. I'm the worst. Like with my kids, I'm always like, oh, look at me. But when I'm in that moment of creation, I do feel like there's something sacred about it. And I also sort of joke, like, I'm not that good. Like if something disrupts me, no, if something,
That's
I might not, like, part of why I can make what I make is because I'm very deliberate about it, and I try to honor that space,
what I will say too, and this is definitely a lesson that I've learned from a lot of amazing women in my life, you being one of them, um, that I've picked up along the way in my own journey is being able to say no. And you might not realize this. It might have been something that was subconscious for you, but I have absolutely respected the way that you have stood up for yourself in ways.
have
Now,
I? Oh
like you
God, I
were,
don't.
yeah, no, I know, I mean it. Like even just like stories that you've told me,
Mm,
even if it's coming from a place of maybe trauma or
mm,
insecurity, you being able to put your foot down and say, no, I wouldn't like that,
mm-hmm,
whether it's of you, of your work and your situation.
mm,
I think it's something that's empowering to know that it's okay, to, in that moment, for whatever reason it is,
mm-hmm.
um, give somebody a boundary.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I feel like I feel like you described somebody else right now. Like I don't feel like I'm that brave in that way sometimes. Like for sure, from time to time, try to stand up for myself, but it doesn't come real natural. Like I
Yeah.
think, so I appreciate that, because I would not have described myself in that way. I mean,
And I feel like often we do things like that, then it is subconscious, but I've
mhm,
seen you do it. So I know you're
well,
capable of it.
thank you.
Um, and I really respect that about you. And I think, over time, hopefully we always get better at those things. And I've
Mm.
definitely gotten better. I'm still not there yet, but I've definitely gotten better at setting boundaries and saying yes and no to things.
You know what? I feel like
And
I'm getting better, and I'm a little farther along, the journey of life than you. Um, I feel like I'm getting a little bit better, and I don't want to overstate it, but at like just uh, not just appreciating, but like loving all the imperfections of it all, of myself. And I
yeah,
think when I was younger, I had this sort of false, I don't know, hope, curiosity of wanting to be more perfect, instead of being like so happy with my imperfect, quirky, like I make, soft, intimate images. Sorry, that's
the
Linda
ear
over there.
flap. I know, I love
and,
it.
and then I listen to, like, hip hop, and forget to brush my hair, and like, like
Yeah,
I'm sort of a
your
hot
person.
mess. And I remember somebody looking at my work. I think it might have been Kelly, my studio manager. She's been with me for about
I
12
love
years.
Kelly.
She's amazing. She's amazing. She said, yeah, when I met you, she was referred to me on a shoot and was my assistant. And she's like, I knew your work. And I was like, she was kind of excited or whatever. She's like, when I met you, she's like, I don't know what I thought, but I was really surprised. Like, I swore, and I was listening to like hip hop, and she was like, I thought you were gonna, like, I don't know, listen to like classical music, and and I think the truth is, I am so for so long have really sought out and want to make really beautiful, like palpable images because I need a little piece in my life. I'm capturing and making what I need, not what I am. Everything's like, a little crazy over here. And I'm trying to create something that I want more of in my life, which I think is sort of ironic in a way.
I think that's beautiful. And I also like speaking on Kelly, what I love is that you surround yourself with beautiful people.
Mm,
And people of growth. And I want to actually include your daughters in that because your
thank
daughters are
you.
so special and you've done such an amazing
Mm,
job raising them.
that's so kind.
And I know it's easy. It's easy. Like for me, I can say Hendrix is incredible and he is, and I know that.
No,
But I
I
think
know. Yeah, I feel you.
it might be a harder, or it is because I've experienced this. It's harder to accept the compliment that you're a good mother because I feel
Mm.
like we've always, or I mean, at least me, and I think that there's a lot of women out there that that's a harder compliment
Well, it's
because
a
we put so
struggle,
much
right?
pressure on ourselves. Yeah,
Well, I think also, and you have a little one, and is it when they're little and it's so they need you and want you so much, right? And you don't sleep a
yeah,
lot and all these things. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I just didn't know then how temporary it was that there was
yeah,
like a last time that you would pick them up, but you would never know that it was the last time. And
right.
I would like to just pause here for a minute because I'm feeling a little bit of like mother guilt in this moment. We've talked about and referred to my daughter several times. I just want to acknowledge I also have a son.
I know. Sorry. I also that's actually my fault because no, it is because obviously this is a podcast about women, but there are
Yeah.
also so many amazing men out there, and I do want to give Malik is such a great. I mean, he's a guy now, which is crazy to
Okay,
me,
let me
but
just wait. Like, if we could just sidebar on this for a second, like,
he's a
not
man.
well. Okay, and I will say this, like, I love that your podcast is about women, and I love the title, like everything. I just feel like we're sort of aligned in this cosmic way in this moment, again around nudity and women. But um, but what I will say, like, so my son Malik he's 6'5" now. He is playing basketball for Pepperdine. He's incredible. And when you guys come to California, you have to
I
come
can't
and meet
wait.
him.
I
It's
want to
like,
go to a game.
it's so sad. I lose my mind. Like I can't, I even like my husband will be like, okay, you got to just like, be cool. And like he'll score. So it's like takes over my whole body. But what I was going to say though about the men in our life, and I think you and I are lucky in this too, from our husbands and some of the other men in our peripheral, is that my son and my husband in particular have really helped me be a better, like a more, I don't know what the word, not better, but more well-rounded woman. I have more
Absolutely.
curiosity and understanding for myself and through their eyes, you know what I mean? And through the
Absolutely.
boundaries that they've pushed me through and helped me, I kind of came from a broken home. Like my parents split up when I was really young. So I had a lot of sadness from that. And sorry, mom and dad, if I'm okay. But it was hard. It was really
Yeah.
hard. And so now I feel that I've healed a little bit as the woman that I am because of their presence in their life and
Yeah.
in my life, excuse me. And and seeing you be a mother to a son, it's actually thrilling because like when I see you with him, I'm like, I remember my son so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the tenderness. And he used to always touch my hair. I think it might be why I don't cut it anymore. He used to touch it. And
I
then one day
know.
he stopped. Like he was 9 and he wouldn't touch my hair anymore. It was
Yeah.
like a comfort. We'd sit on the couch. We cut. And I was like,
Right.
honey, what's up? You're not touching my hair. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't do that anymore. I was like, could you just do it
Not
like
looking
one
forward to
more
that day.
time so I know it's the last time? He's like, no, I
Yeah.
don't do that anymore. I was like, wow, okay. That's deep.
Yeah.
So
No, it
anyhow, my
is.
point is like I think being a mother is just extraordinary, and however women become mothers, and there's all different paths to that, it's humbling and it's hard. And also you like, at least for me, I just miss the sleepless nights and I
Yeah.
just miss it. And it's like so strange how that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I think that it's again easy to dismiss when we're talking about ourselves, but I will include myself in this category. What I think is something to note is that yes, little bits of it is luck that we have the men in our lives, but a lot of it is
Mm.
also choice, you know?
That was me
No,
knocking on wood. No.
yeah, right. I know, right?
Well, I
I
made
know,
some
but
bad choices though. So you're okay. You were a little pure and like you
yes
must
and
have
no,
that
no,
was your
I made
first
some bad
choice.
decisions before
Did you?
that.
I feel like
Oh,
you're
yeah, I
cute.
did.
Oh, no, I had
I was
some.
young, but I did.
You
There were
did?
some poor
Okay.
decisions in
All
there.
right.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
off camera more.
Yeah, that's an on camera one.
Oh,
But truly, it's still, we still have a big part to play in that, where we have
I
found men,
I
but we've
agree.
also, I mean, it's a bit of both. You know, that stuff takes work. Marriage takes work. Partnerships take work.
Yeah.
Raising a son takes work,
Yes, all of it
especially
does.
right
All of
now.
it.
Especially right now, raising good boys into men are it's
Mhm.
so important. And everybody comes from a mom, no matter,
Mhm.
no
Mhm.
matter what, no matter what degree, no matter what your family looks like,
Mhm.
no one would be here without a woman. So I think it is special, and we can't not include men in this. And I think
Yeah.
naturally that is
Well,
something to
mhm.
definitely honor. And I mean, in the little tiny ways I've seen Malik grow up,
Mhm.
I see so much of you in him, and I
Yeah.
love it.
Well, and I think it's interesting just referring like I did have some pretty poor choices along the way and choices that seemed I was really in love. You know what I mean? Like and
Right.
I was actually uh with someone for several years and we were engaged and he broke up with me 2 months before we were supposed to get married. And I legit did not think I would recover.
Yeah.
And again, I still feel the time in our life that we had together was actually really profound for me. And he was a good partner to a certain degree, but he wasn't capable of the life that I have and want, or I wanted and I now have manifested.
Yeah.
And my husband now is like, he's an extraordinary person. I always joke that he's much nicer than I am. And like, I should,
Oh,
because
husband is
he's
in so
very
many ways.
calm. I'm very passionate and hot headed, and I'm an artist, and I get mad easy, but I'll kiss you fast. Like
Yeah.
I'm in that space, and he's just like, he's calm. I
Hudson
need
falls
calm.
in that
Oh
category a
my
thousand
god.
percent. And it's part of the reason that he's right for me.
But also, you know what? Just to circle it back around to like being a woman and to be a creative woman, what I think is interesting about that is, you're talking about motherhood and how it's work and it's like
Yeah.
incredible and it's hard, but also we are both aligned and we are working women.
Yeah.
And I, I want to be a little old lady with a camera. Like I want to be photographing forever. And as much as my family like gives me great joy and I feel a lot of gratitude for being blessed to have a family and children, I cannot only do that. And
Yeah.
so when I like think about the balance and the I didn't shoot my first wedding until I had Michaela, my
Hmm.
oldest. And before that, I was a bit timid. Like I wanted to be a photographer, but didn't know how. So I was a waitress and saved tips and bought film and took photographs. And
Yeah.
when I photographed my first wedding, my oldest daughter was 1 month old, and I brought my mother as my assistant, and I was photographing a very good friend. So this was all sanctioned. I wouldn't advise it if you're starting out and, wanting to do, but I took photographs and took breaks and nursed my daughter. And then my mom would hold my baby and I would photograph. So I never really started a proper professional career until I had one hand tied behind my back. Like when I
Right.
look at young women starting now and they don't have babies and they're worried about, so I'm like, oh my God, you're doing everything right. Like make a
Yeah.
website, make photographs, like, or whatever you want to do, like pursue it, because I spent a lot of time being timid. And it's only as I've gotten older and like really leaned into just myself, my quirky self that likes to make pretty pictures, is like,
Yeah.
uh, it feels like a really amazing evolution. And it's not that I regret, although I regret a little not being more brave, some of the things that we could have done earlier. But I do think like as women, it is sometimes not easy to fully embrace our path as an artist or a professional and wanting other maybe more traditional or less exciting things compared, that society defines or whatever. I want it all.
Yeah. And I second all of that. There are like four things that I want to ask you.
Okay.
Um that I need to like
Should I be
remember
nervous?
to ask you. No, my gosh, no,
Okay.
it's not like that. Well, and not just ask you, tell you.
Okay.
Um I want to second everything that you said. I think, yes, obviously partners that we choose are so important in that. And like for me, I definitely wouldn't be I I have a partner that supports me in so many ways and encourages me in my career, um, rather than lets me, or there's so
100%.
many different types of relationships out there, and I'm so
Well, and also,
thankful
wait,
for
if
him.
I could interrupt on one thing too, what
Yeah.
I witnessed that I think you kind of touched on briefly, that I just want to say that was really wonderful to witness, is that even when you were struggling with where you were in your body or in your emotions, he treated you with just, it was just no big, it was the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't even no big deal. It wasn't even, it was just, he loved you, period.
Yeah.
And that was really, it was just beautiful to witness. And I have a little bit
Thank
of that in
you.
my life. My husband is just, I could shave my head and he'd be like, oh, okay, is that what we're doing now? Like, cool. But I mean, not that shaving your head is bad. I'm just saying, like,
No,
he loves
absolutely.
someone
Yeah.
who allows you to be and honors you
Yeah.
and loves you as you are. So I just feel like that is
Yeah.
pretty special.
Absolutely. There, as far as family life goes, there's a couple things that I want to ask you
Mm.
about. Well, the first time that Jasmine noticed that maybe you and her weren't exactly the same.
Oh, well, okay.
Um,
So yeah, so I mean, there's a few things that I feel about it. I think growing up, I thought that I was, I don't know, non prejudiced or just open. Like I didn't
mhm,
have any, and the first time that I had any realization that I might not fully understand what other people are going through, and I don't mean just, my husband is black. I don't mean, other races, but just that, like, oh, my perspective may not be similar to other people's, is that when
yeah.
I was in my 20s, again, I won't make this too long, but I had lived in the apartment I lived in burned down, and I barely got out. All the photos I had made to that point, which was about 10 years, were destroyed, negative, everything. So it was a deep loss. And excuse me. And I went to India after that because I thought, gosh, I almost died in my bed at night. Like, what am I waiting for? Like, I
Yeah.
want to see the world. I want to take pictures. And I went to India by myself, and I was a little naive, which I think serves you well sometimes. I didn't know what it was a big deal to be a young white woman traveling alone in a foreign country, in particular in India. And I would go, let's say, just say to a little like hole in the wall restaurant to get lunch. And I would be eating, and like 3, 4, 5, 10 children, grown men, people would stand right next to me and watch me eat, because they
Mm,
were like, what is this girl like? What? Like, it wasn't unkind, it was just total curiosity. And I remember this one particular time, and this happened on and off my whole traveling time, but one particular time I walked out, in my head I walked away, I go, oh, I wonder if that is what it feels like to be like the only young black kid in a classroom, because I had a student, or the only young Hispanic or Asian, whatever it is.
mhm.
Like I thought, oh, like people are just looking at you. Like it just
Right.
struck me that maybe I didn't understand or wasn't as open or whatever that I thought. And so, that was many, many years. And I've, had, I wouldn't say a ton of boyfriends, but I've dated different people from different backgrounds. And I just fell in love with my husband in particular. You know what I mean? Like he was just
Yeah.
we had just a lot of ways we aligned emotionally and practically. And he's just a wonderful person. And again, I think by the time we got together and then had a family, and I was maybe a bit naive again, that was even anything that, I don't know, needed to be discussed or addressed. And yet
Yeah.
over time, and to this day now, there have been just situations and elements that have reminded me that in some people's eyes we're different, and in sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's indifferent. But what I've been more interested in and curious about is my children's experience. And I started looking at my photographs differently, going, gosh, mostly all my photographs look like me because those are the people that I'm most in my life. So when my first daughter was born, I purposely started a project. I haven't even published it yet. I've been doing this for 25 years. It's called the Blessings Project, side thing, where I started photographing and seeking out children that had parents of two different or multiple different backgrounds, some Caucasian and Black, some just all different. And I wanted my children, my daughter at that time, to grow up seeing other faces that looked like hers and seeing them in my work and knowing they were beautiful and amazing. And so I started kind of being more mindful then. And then I've had little things along the way, like in particular, Michaela, when she was about 4, like race never came up, right? Like she loved us. Like she saw
Yeah.
dad's face and mom's face. And when she was about 4, we were like, she was sitting on my lap. We might have been watching TV and our arms were next to each other. And I'll remember that she looked at my arm and looked at hers and she was like touching my skin. And she looked at me, she said, Mom, do I look like you underneath? And I remember like, oh, she's just realizing that there's a difference between us.
Yeah.
And I remember it was very sweet, but I also felt a little sad, like, oh, she's becoming aware in a different way. And it's not just love. It's like now she wants to understand this, physical difference. And I answered in a way that at the moment it just sort of came over me. And I feel like it was a good way to handle it. But I said, yes and no. I said, we are the same. Like if you scratch me and your arm gets scratched, we'll both bleed. We're totally the same. But also, it's not like you have white skin under your brown skin. Like our skin is our skin.
Yeah.
And, and it was like, no big deal. She was like, oh, okay. And that happened with each of my children at some point. And even now, like my youngest is 16. And we had kind of an interesting conversation. This was a few months ago where she said something that was very sweet. She was very tender with me. And she said, Mom, like, and we were in the middle of a conversation. This wasn't out of the blue. It was like part of like, navigating life with a 16-year-old. But she said, Mom, I love you and you're my mom and I'm always going to feel connected to you in a really like, strong way. But when I'm in the world, people see me, I'm a Black woman, I'm a Black girl. And that is my experience. And sometimes it's hard because, again, we live in a community where there's not a huge percentage of people that look like her. And I don't know, some kids at school were like touching her hair, which, is a long, beautiful curly hair. And it made her feel, she said, I feel like a zoo animal. I don't like it. I don't want to be treated like that. And that's just not something I've experienced. And so
Right.
it takes a lot of like humility, and I have to keep being aware that I don't really know everything that they're experiencing. And I try to just be open and listen. And, I'm a white heterosexual woman, like I have all of my things that came with it. And, but I love my family. And I do feel like my eyes have opened in ways that I don't know if they would have if they weren't my family,
Right.
and, yeah, it's I think it's wonderful. I wish more people could see into other people's lives and cultures and differences, because I do think there's so much beauty in it. And we bring, I mean, kind of like circling back to what we started with, like all the different
Yeah.
women in the world. And one thing that I do to this day, I really leaned into, I mean, this is specific about photography, but I think a lot of photographers don't know how to photograph dark skin. You have to
Yeah.
expose it differently. You need a different amount of light. You need to be mindful of that. Even now in my house, I have I don't put a lot of my photos up because it's sort of like, it's almost like too much of me. Like I can't look at I don't know if you like watch your own movies. I'm like, whoa, like
Yeah, I
it's
can't do
like
it.
too personal, right? But I have these 2 really big prints in my dining room. One is this tree with like light coming through it, and the other is this beautiful woman that I photographed in Africa on a editorial shoot, a magazine cover. And I chose those 2, and again, it was purposeful. I was like, well, I could choose anything, but I want my daughters to walk through and see a beautiful black woman and have that have some positive impact. Now, I don't know if that's, maybe I'm missing the point somehow. I'm but I try to be mindful that their experience might be different, and that beauty is in everything, and every woman, and every iteration of women, and age, color, background, sexual orientation, all the things
Yeah.
are matter and are important. It's not just like they all can be here. They have, it's a collective of humans and women and experiences that are really important. And yeah, I feel lucky to have just a little bit of an insight into something that I wouldn't have known if I didn't have a more diverse family.
Yeah. Well, I love that because um it's I don't think that well, you maybe you do, maybe you don't realize just how important it is to talk about it. Because essentially,
Sometimes I get
you're not.
nervous talking about it because I feel like it's really, it's so personal, and
Yeah.
I, I don't know if other people relate in the way you know what I mean? Like I get nervous because I don't want to say something that sounds too broad or something. I don't know. I only know my
Well,
little perspective, you know?
right, but you are sharing what your life is like,
Hmm.
the life that you
No,
live.
yeah, but it is.
And I
But
think that's what's
mhm,
what I think that's what's beautiful is
mhm,
that, there are lots of families, but there are lots of women that are in a similar position as you.
mhm,
And like I won't fully understand it,
mhm,
but the women that are in your position or similar positions,
mhm.
I'm sure it's nice just to hear people talking about it.
Well, yeah,
It's
and I
not
think, I
it's
mean,
not
I
like
think the
affected.
no, no, not at all. But I think the flip side of it, which is, I mean, maybe obvious, maybe not, is that I mean, talking about it, and I think about it, and I'm trying to be mindful of not always knowing what they're experiencing or even what my husband might be experiencing. Um, is that also 99.9% of our life is like, who's doing the dishes? Like, no, I want to
Yeah,
watch the show.
it's
You
not
know, it's
something
like
that you
we're
think
just
about all
like,
the
you're
time.
not like, oh, you're this, I'm that. We're just doing life. I will say it did come up though. When my son started driving, and my husband had, shared with him some experiences when he was young. And my husband's like he's a good guy. He was like, but got pulled over, did nothing, was put in handcuffs, like the whole thing that you see, like experience. And when he told my son, hadn't even heard that story from him. And we were just trying
No.
to, like, just tell him to be mindful about how he carries himself and behaves if he's ever in a situation where he was pulled over. And so my husband shared a story that I hadn't even heard. And I was like, wow, And so, yeah, our life is like regular and whatever, boring, and who's picking who up, and, what are we eating? But also then there's this other layer of, just another texture.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
And thank you for sharing that,
Oh,
you know?
no, I thank you for acknowledging too,
Well,
and
it's a big deal and it's not a big deal, and I don't think it should be
exactly,
a big
that's
deal,
what's
but it's still
mhm,
there, right?
mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I think your family is beautiful, and I always love being around them.
Thank you.
Just for the people that they are. I mean,
Mhm,
they're all so different and they're also beautiful
mhm,
in their own ways. And I also feel like you've done such a good job as a mother of allowing that.
mm. I don't know if that was on purpose or just a little bit of luck though, dude. I mean,
I mean, they're great.
uh,
They're great humans in just their interests and their lives and what they want.
mm,
And again, I know it's hard to take that type of compliment as a
well, thank
mom,
you.
but a lot life is nature and nurture,
Mhm.
and you've done such a good job with the
Oh,
nurture.
Sasha, thank you. That's so kind. I feel really, just thank you.
Yeah. And also what I wanted to say, which will segue into the art department, is
Mm,
that again, with the amazing women that I have in my life, all of them I've seen different ages, different walks of life, grow in so many cool ways. All of my girlfriends, all of my close
mhm,
girlfriends, I've seen
mhm,
that, and I've seen, you grow
mm,
in lots of ways. And it's it's really powerful to be
mm.
at the point that you are at now, to see that. And if you want to share about your journey, you can. But to see, you not want to be in photos is a good example,
Mm-hmm.
or not want to be captured in videos.
Mm-hmm.
And to see you, I guess, just own it is
Mm-hmm.
really cool. I think that's the best way that I can describe it, seeing you as a friend, knowing that I've seen it this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen how wonderful you are, how beautiful you are, and the person that's behind the camera that makes me feel wonderful. I also look at you with those same eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so excited for this next step that you are taking, because I know, Kelly knows, your family knows, everybody that has experienced you knows how wonderful and how powerful you are. And I'm just so glad that you are going to be sharing pieces of that with the
God, I
world.
feel like this is like the most profound positive therapy session I've ever had. Like, yeah, I'm like, what?
Good.
Thank you. I'm tickling. Yeah. I mean, so I think life is funny because all the ways that I am are real, right? Like I'm naturally a bit shy and an introvert. And I've learned also to exist in the wild. Like I know I love this. Like if I think that people are listening, that gives me a little bit of like low grade anxiety. Like I'm like, oh my God. But if I'm talking to you, we can do this all day long. Like this is, a
Yeah.
happy place. But so what that means for me is that growing up, my parents split up, I moved around a lot and I was just a little shy. And when I found photography, it actually it just opened up my world because it gave me a reason to be in a room, right? I had a purpose and that felt protective. And so I could be really leaning into that and be more expressive and more comfortable because there wasn't just like, I wasn't staying in a room. I had something to do with my hands, like I
Right.
feel like that gave me permission to be in a lot of spaces that I might have been more timid to enter. And along the way, we touched on this, that I never wanted to be on camera or videotaped or filmed because what mattered to me was the photos. And I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, who cares what I'm doing or look like look what I made. Like I'm offering you something. So I didn't, I'm sort of late. Like I'm on Instagram. I love it, but I was like late to it. Like when Twitter came out for like 5 years, all my friends called me Twitterless Messina because I was like, that's what but then I get into it. I'm like, oh my God, have you heard of Instagram? It's amazing. Like, like I'm
Yeah.
late, but then I get excited. So for me, it was really real that I didn't think that mattered. I didn't get it. Like I want the work to be amazing. I want people to have an emotional experience. I want people to like me and my work. Yeah. But the process I felt was like, that's like the messy kitchen. Like it's sort of like, you go to a restaurant, you get a beautiful meal. The
Right.
messy kitchen, like what? No, like that, just enjoy the meal. And so that was really my philosophy. And it became, I think, more something people talked about as like phones and selfies became so prevalent, and I just didn't catch up very fast. I was like, what? No. I remember like speaking at a photo conference, and this is, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I don't even know. And I spoke to 1,000 people. It was like so overwhelming for me. And then people don't know I'm like having an actual panic attack and going on stage and then like talking about what I love, which is photography. And I do love talking about what I love, whether it's my people or my art. But afterwards, I was talking to, some of the people that come to, and everyone wanted to take a picture of me or with me. And I couldn't. I was like, what? I was like, oh, no. And try to be very, very nice, but I would offer to take a photo of them. I would like hold a book in front of me because I just wrote a book. And I was just like, I just was like awkward. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I tried to make it sweet, but it was like a hard no. And sidebar on that, interestingly, when we were doing the cookbook, I remember um, we would go to like Vaughn's and we would like be just like exhausted and need eggs for a shot or something. And, at this point, we're just hanging out. You're just like my girl and we're doing stuff. And then, someone would recognize you and get excited. And I remember like, oh, whoa, like, and you were so nice and always let someone take a picture or like whatever it was. And I was like, wow, that was very nice. Like I would just be like, like different, different energy. And so anyhow, not to make too much of a thing, it was just not comfortable for me. And I was okay being not comfortable in that way. I didn't feel that I needed to, put a video of myself on my website with a camera. Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
But then as like where I am now, I still feel the same, which is sort of funny. I don't actually really think it matters because my art form is this thing I'm making, right? Now your art form is different. Part of your art form is sharing your actual body and you know what I mean? They're different art forms. And the one that
Yeah.
I lean into was different. But what's different for me now is that I wish I could meet younger me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As I sort of started thinking about that, like the things I might tell my younger self, especially wanting to be an artist and like do things. And I was, putting limits in front of myself because I didn't know what to do. And through that process, and really Kelly was a big part of it. There's a lot of people who sort of like said, you need to do this, that I decided to really share all of the things that I do to make work and to film myself. And what was interesting about it is that it has been a beautiful journey. Like I've actually really enjoyed slowing down and actually like putting into words and thoughts why I do it, what I'm doing from, when you come in and creating a space where it feels comfortable. I was just living, you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
really that's actually a technique too, inadvertently, like, by creating a space for you to relax in. And so from that to actually how I set my camera and standing on a bathtub, like I did with, I filmed myself doing all the things I did. And the reason it feels really special and not a conflict with my inner introvert self is that the project of creating this was the work. And so it had a different
Right.
feel than I wasn't shooting something for someone else and trying to get a video. The entire project was filming it and doing it very purposely. And what I found is that, well, really, I'm a filmmaker, so let's make a film now. Like all I want to do is like, why am I not making movies? But also being an art director of my process and really trying to figure out how to share it with maybe a young woman who loves photography and doesn't know what to do, or a young man, like, or anybody,
Yeah.
And I feel different at this age and moment that because I've been photographing for 30 years or more, I really have something to share that I hope will inspire someone else. And I think I had this idea, and I get very heady about these things, but I have this idea of this like greater purpose. If like more photographers can learn their way of expressing themselves and capturing women with intention and grace and beauty and vulnerability and all those things, then maybe we can have this like wave of impact around all the women we come into contact with, whether it's clients or people we love, where we're showing them their beauty and their unique, and not just beauty in that superficial way, but their like beauty, their humanity, their depth.
Yeah.
um, then that's deeper than just me feeling awkward for a minute about this idea about, being being filmed. The purpose of wanting to like share truly and thoughtfully why I make images and what I think matters, and
Yeah.
techniques like the natural light and like there's real technical stuff, but it's more the purpose that I'm really infatuated with. And um anyhow, yeah, so I filmed everything. We've been the idea came up maybe like during COVID, and but then I was like, everything in my body was like, no, nope. And then it's been, as one does, puts up persistence. And then it's been about a year that we've been producing it. And literally it's just like magic. Like I feel so happy, a little nervous, like honestly, to be so vulnerable myself. But then
Yeah.
I had this realization recently that I really hope and request that women be very open and vulnerable with me when I capture them. That's what I'm, and yet I have not been willing to do that myself.
Right.
And so I felt like that was meaningful to put myself in the position I hoped other people would trust me with. And so the art department it's my website. It's a sanctuary for creatives. And the first film that I made is called The Art of Boudoir. And it's kind of funny because I named it the Art of Boudoir, and we like again like this all this stuff with
Yeah.
your podcast. Our first shoot was boudoir, and yet the I think I'm redefining the word boudoir completely. It is not about nudity and sexuality, although that's fine. And incidentally, there is nudity and beautiful women in it, but also most of it is about the the pure vulnerability and openness and power and complicated things that women are, and how I capture whichever woman is in front of me. And no two are alike, just as no two photographers are alike. And I think, again, that is the piece that I don't want people to watch it and be like me or shoot like me in particular. I want them to, I hope, be inspired by my sensibility and intentionality around making images, and then use their voice to implement whatever that is for them. And yeah, I'm really excited.
I'm so excited. I'm like I was saying, I'm so excited that you're doing it. I'm so excited and thrilled and proud of your journey.
Yeah.
I'm so ready for it.
Well, and you know what's interesting? Like when we think about like, your first boudoir shoot, and yeah, you were naked. It was like we were whatever, like there's a sisterhood, a safe space of like art and
Yeah.
beauty. And yet, if you look at the photographs, none of them are really showing your naked body. I mean, you are
Yeah.
like, in fact, when you're sitting on the chair, actually it's like this, I'm on a stool right now, where you have your legs up like this, you were fully
Yeah.
naked and you can't see anything. That's not actually the
It's not what
purpose.
it's about.
That's not what
Yeah.
it's about. And so I do think that that's interesting, that I'm very I like to honor the women that are in front of me, and some are much more comfortable showing their body and some are not, and it's just never the point.
Yeah.
Although I also think bodies are beautiful and amazing, and why do we, I don't know, overly sexualize it or make it something? I think, I don't know, it's just all part of the fabric and texture of our lives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. So where can we find it? And how do
Oh
we
my
get
God, I'm
it?
so
What, yeah.
overwhelmed. Like we're okay, we're
I
doing this
know.
podcast right now, and I'm like in the middle. I don't even know if you're supposed to say this when you're on production, but I've been pulling some pretty late nights trying to make everything perfect because,
That's
being a
exactly what we do.
perfectionist. Okay. I'm like, being a
Yeah.
perfectionist is intense. So it is actually our launch day is October 24th, which is Tuesday.
I'm gonna post like in the caption. I'll put all of this information in there
Okay.
with the
So
website and where to get
it's
it. But
honestly, it's if you go to the artdepartment.com, I spell art ARTE everywhere.
I love
And
it.
so it's the art ARTE department DEPT.com, and the course is the Art of Boudoir. And it's like, really, I feel like I had another baby. It's just,
Yeah.
I put my whole heart, my whole self into it, and I feel like, I don't know, it's wonderful to be at a point in life where I actually really want to share. And it isn't because someone said, oh, you should, do a behind the scenes video, but I feel like I really have something to share that I think has some meaning, I hope. And
Well, it's your choice.
mhm, that part.
Yeah. It's your
Yeah,
choice, and
it
it's
is.
and it's and it's in your time. It's
Well, and also I
what you
will
want to
say
share.
this, the entire thing was, so everything that I'm not in, almost everything I film myself, like, being a creative control freak has its perks. I have friends that are filmmakers and writers in the movie industry that came and just helped me figure out how to film in the way I wanted to. Like I knew what I wanted it to look like, but I didn't
Yeah.
know how to do that. We've referred to Kelly as like literally my sister from, I mean, just she's been incredible. And so I feel like this incredible community of women you included in this moment, that you're even acknowledging this piece that I made, it feels like, just like this wave of woman support. And my project is about women, and it feels just so beautiful and fulfilling. Even now, before I've released it, whatever happens, I'm going to just like try to like hide and not look at what people say for a while. But I just feel so like, it just feels like wonderful, wonderful to share in this way.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. And then I have one more question, which
Mm.
I ask everybody.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
listen to, oh gosh, what?
I know it actually basically coincides with everything that you've just said. So,
Mm.
yes, it's for you in particular. But I just feel like it's a great question to ask you. So
Mm.
I ask every guest that comes on what makes them feel sexy. Most of the
Mm.
time, it's not sexual. It can be. Most of
Mm.
the time, it's not. Anything I've gotten anything from taking a shower,
Wow.
shaving, getting your
I feel
hair
like there's
done,
so
or
many things. I mean,
and yeah, it could be more than one
oh,
answer.
what makes me feel sexy? I think, oh my God, it's like so embarrassing to talk about.
No, no,
It's
my
like,
gosh, no, no.
no, I mean, in a good way though. I mean, I feel like I feel most sexy when I'm kind to myself. Does that make sense? Like and it
Absolutely.
doesn't, it's not one thing or the other. Like maybe some days it's a shower because I really needed it for sure. But no, it's more like, um, you know how we were talking about the way your body changes and all that?
Hmm.
I feel like at this point in my life, what makes me feel sexy is different, right? It's
Yeah.
like actually being able to look at myself or um, somehow experience myself and be kind to her. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
be um, like I'm very affectionate with my husband. I'm, you know, in little ways, like I'm just a tactile person. And again, I think I've been blessed that he is um a good recipient, like he receives whatever mood I'm in. But to be more comfortable in my body allows me to express myself more. I think when I was younger, like if we're talking about sexy and sexuality, I sort of waited to be chosen or to be um you know
Pursued.
whatever, yeah, that thing that we do. And now I'm a little bit more, I'm more aware of what I want in this moment. Like lately it's been, I'm going to be in my studio for 12 hours and I love you from afar. And being in that space feels, it's not even sexy, but it's like I feel true to myself. And at the same time, if I feel more, I don't know, traditionally sexy, I'm much more comfortable expressing myself and being um like that part of myself is okay too. So I think it's like a general kindness with whatever space I'm in makes me feel more connected to myself.
Yeah.
And being connected to myself is, I think, where sexuality and sensuality lives
I love
in those
that.
spaces. Hmm.
And so that's why I love this question, because that's exactly it. It's not only does everyone have a different answer, but in
Hmm.
so many
Well,
ways
some I
they're the
can't
same
say
answer.
you know, publicly,
I
but
mean,
that's
you can. This is literally I
no. Yeah,
usually
I
I'm
know
actually
that.
shocked. I'm
But
shocked
what
that
you
we
hear? Have you heard some like?
oh yeah, but like I haven't like usually there's swearing in my podcast and naturally
Mm.
because like I have a
Oh, I
potty mouth,
swear all
you
the
know
time.
that.
I've been working really hard trying not to because
Oh yeah,
I swear pretty
this
naturally.
podcast we can say literally anything.
What? We
Yeah,
should
which I
do
guess I
that
should have
more.
told you
Uh-huh.
beforehand. I
That's
know,
really
I'm
good.
sorry.
I'm trying to like,
Um,
which is
I know
funny
we
because
both did
I
pretty good.
swear a lot in my life, and it's like something I'm working on because it. Sometimes I actually feel like there are certain words in certain moments that there's not another word that will communicate the same.
Hmm.
Right? My husband doesn't really swear, and he's always been like when the kids were little, he's like, Elizabeth, like, could you? I'm just like, dude, I'm a
I
mixed bag
definitely
nut.
swear more
Like,
than husband. Yeah,
right? So no, that's funny.
but
What
yeah.
is your answer though? Have you answered it?
I have answered it a couple times, and it's funny that you say that, at certain moments or, at certain times in your life, it's that definition has changed. I think I have multiple things,
Mhm.
like definitely as a mom now, the definition is different. And yes, it can be a shower. It can be like that moment of
Yeah.
peace. No, seriously.
Mhm.
Or it can be, in this new body, feeling sexy for my husband,
Mhm.
you know, um, kind of relishing the way that he sees me, right?
Mhm.
And that is, yeah, the more traditional sexy that we initially
Mhm.
think about. But I think ultimately it's connected to feeling powerful in whatever capacity that is, whether that's in my work, whether that's in, my relationships, or if I feel like I did a good job as a mom that day, or, that there's so many, I feel like sexuality, feeling sexy, sensuality, like you were saying, it most of the time actually doesn't connect to a nude body
Well,
or
what's
sex
interesting
itself.
that what you say though is like, I feel, having been in a relationship for a very long time and having like been sort of, I don't know, just through many stages together, emotionally and physically, that there is something really profound spiritually about maintaining a sexual connection with your partner, because I find like if we're not in sync in that way, we might bicker a little bit more. So I mean, there's something like where we're more
Yeah.
spiritually connected and kind of gentle on each other in regular life when we're also being intimate and tender. And honestly, like, kind of circling it back around, I remember this one time I like, my husband was mowing the backyard, and I literally, like, I took a picture. I don't know if I shared this on my stories or if I just sent it to a friend, but I just wrote on it foreplay. Because when he does things to take care of our life, I'm like, oh my, I gotta be nice to this
Yeah,
guy.
it's
Like,
sexy.
yes, it's
Yeah.
sexy.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And you truly are you're just like, you just make me happy. I'm so excited
Feel the same.
I really am just so excited for the world to see. And I mean, I'm excited to see it. Like, I'm just so excited for that.
Thank
Because
you.
I know how wonderful you are. Everyone knows how wonderful your art is. But to see you in action, I know you feel like it. Yeah, it was
I'm gonna
different
send you a
before.
sneak peek so you can like see in the
Please do. But I really do think that like there is beauty in the process, and I'm glad that you are sharing it in, actually in a way that like you see through your eyes. I think that's super cool, and
Oh,
I
thank
think people are
you.
going to really learn a lot and really
I
enjoy
hope
it.
so. It just felt like, it just felt like the time. I just felt it. It wasn't even a
Yeah.
decision. It was more of an emotional, yeah,
Yeah.
this was happening.
Yeah. I'm so glad.
Well, I adore you, and this is
Likewise.
wonderful. And I can't wait to see you soon
I know. I'm so
and make
excited.
more.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're very special and very, um, like wise beyond your years in ways that surprise me. You have a sweetness and a depth that is just special. So it's
Thanks.
been
I'm
wonderful
still
being
working on
very
taking
close.
compliments. That's
I know, right? It's this whole time I'm like, am I red? Am I sweaty? Like,
no, you look beautiful.
you too.
Well, yeah, we did
Well,
it.
my love, we did it, and thank you. That
Thank
was
you.
wonderful. I wish we could talk every day. That was
I
beautiful.
know. I really like it.
And that's a wrap on another empowering episode of Women in the Nude. The conversation doesn't stop here. Stay connected with us by following us on Instagram, Women in the Nude Podcast, for behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, thought-provoking quotes, and updates on upcoming episodes. Subscribe to us on YouTube for full-length video podcasts, Sasha Pieterse, as well as visiting our website, Women in the Nude Podcast, for more resources and past episodes. Thank you for joining us on this naked journey to wellness and self-love. Remember, vulnerability is strength, and by sharing our stories, we empower each other. Special thanks to my amazing producer, Hudson Sheaffer, aka my hot husband, for making this podcast possible.